The US has imposed new tariffs on imported cars and parts, shaking the global auto industry, especially German car makers with deep American roots. These tariffs disrupt supply chains built over decades, forcing companies like Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and Volkswagen to rethink their US strategies. The impact is felt from factory floors in South Carolina to dealerships in California, raising costs and uncertainty for everyone. For an industry already struggling with the costly shift to electric vehicles, this added pressure is a major blow. Financial forecasts are being withdrawn as companies admit they can't predict earnings in this volatile environment. German automakers, once symbols of stability and quality in the US, now face tough choices about their future investments. The big question: is this a temporary disruption or a permanent shift in how cars are built and sold worldwide? The storm has arrived, and the industry is scrambling to adapt. President Trump's America First trade policy marked a dramatic shift in U.S. economic strategy, leading to steep tariffs on European cars and parts. The administration argued that these measures were necessary to protect American interests and industries, especially as global competition intensified. The tariffs were designed to address what Trump called an unfair trade imbalance, with the U.S. importing far more cars from Europe than it exported in return. This imbalance, he claimed, was costing American jobs and weakening the nation's manufacturing base. The administration pointed to higher EU tariffs on American cars as a key reason U.S. manufacturers struggled to compete abroad, arguing that American companies faced barriers that their European rivals did not. In early 2025, a sweeping 25% tariff on EU automotive imports was announced, later expanded to include car parts. The move sent shockwaves through the global auto industry, sparking immediate concern among automakers and suppliers worldwide. The administration's goal was clear: push foreign companies to build more cars in the U.S., create new jobs for American workers, and revitalize domestic manufacturing communities that had suffered for decades. The tariffs were also justified on national security grounds, with officials arguing that a strong domestic auto industry was vital for the country's economic independence and security in an uncertain world. While many economists and industry experts questioned the logic and effectiveness of the tariffs, the Trump administration saw them as powerful leverage to force better trade deals and protect American interests. After months of tense negotiations, a deal was reached to cap tariffs at 15%. But by then, the uncertainty had already caused chaos in the markets, with auto stocks plunging and dealerships struggling to adapt. Trump's preference for bilateral deals, such as the separate agreement with the UK, further unsettled global trade partners and left many wondering about the future of international cooperation. For German automakers, the result was immediate financial pain, with sales dropping sharply and executives scrambling to find a new path forward in a suddenly hostile American market. The financial fallout for German automakers was swift and severe, sending shockwaves through the entire industry. As global trade tensions escalated, the impact was felt almost overnight, with automakers scrambling to respond to a rapidly changing landscape. Mercedes-Benz saw profits plunge 56% in the first half of 2025, forcing it to scrap its earnings guidance. The company, once a symbol of stability, was suddenly facing unprecedented uncertainty, with executives warning of even tougher times ahead. Volkswagen lost 1.3 billion euros to tariffs in just 6 months, with profits down by a third. The company's global supply chains were thrown into disarray, and the cost of doing business soared as new barriers emerged almost weekly. Even Porsche, known for its luxury and resilience, had to cut its sales forecast after absorbing hundreds of millions in extra costs. The brand's reputation for strong margins was put to the test as it struggled to adapt. BMW's profits dropped 29%, marking a third straight decline, as its massive U.S. plant in South Carolina was hit from all sides. The company faced not only higher tariffs, but also supply shortages and wavering consumer demand. The tariffs disrupted both imports and exports, eroding margins needed for investment in electric and autonomous vehicles. Ambitious plans for the future were put on hold as companies struggled just to maintain day-to-day operations. The uncertainty paralyzed financial planning across the industry. Executives and analysts alike found themselves unable to chart a clear path forward, as every forecast seemed outdated within weeks. Stellantis and Volvo both withdrew their financial forecasts, signaling a crisis of confidence. Their decision sent a ripple effect through the market, raising fears that the worst was yet to come. When major automakers can't predict their own future, it's a chilling sign for an industry built on long-term planning. The sense of instability grew with each passing month, as uncertainty became the new normal. The message is clear: the business environment is now too chaotic for reliable predictions, and the road ahead for automakers is more uncertain than ever before. German automakers responded with drastic measures, scrambling to adapt to a rapidly changing landscape. The shockwaves from the new tariffs were felt almost overnight, forcing executives into emergency meetings and upending carefully laid business plans. Audi suspended U.S. deliveries of some models, absorbing huge costs and leaving dealerships short on cars. Showrooms that once bustled with activity now sat eerily quiet, as frustrated customers searched for unavailable vehicles and sales teams struggled to meet quotas. Before the tariffs hit, companies rushed to ship vehicles to the U.S., creating a short-lived production boom followed by a sharp slump. Ports and shipping lanes were suddenly jammed with last-minute deliveries. But the surge quickly faded, leaving excess inventory and logistical headaches. This boom-and-bust cycle disrupted factory workflows and drove up costs. Assembly lines slowed, workers faced reduced hours, and uncertainty spread across the industry as managers scrambled to adjust schedules and budgets. Suppliers like ZF Group faced their own crisis, launching massive restructurings as sales dropped 10%. The ripple effect was immediate, with layoffs, plant closures, and urgent cost-cutting measures becoming the new normal for many suppliers. The pain rippled through the entire supply chain, threatening jobs across Europe and North America. From factory workers to logistics teams, thousands suddenly found their livelihoods at risk as uncertainty gripped the sector. To avoid future tariffs, automakers are accelerating plans to move more production to the U.S., a costly, long-term fix. Building new factories and retraining workers is a massive undertaking, requiring billions in investment and years of planning. Audi and Porsche are exploring a joint U.S. factory, but such investments take years to pay off. In the meantime, companies must navigate a maze of regulatory hurdles and fierce competition, all while trying to maintain their brand reputation. In the short term, companies must choose, absorb the costs and accept lower profits, or raise prices and risk losing market share. Every option comes with significant risks, and there are no easy answers for automakers caught in the crossfire. The options are all painful. Executives face mounting pressure from shareholders, employees, and customers as the industry grapples with an uncertain future. The industry is being forced to reinvent itself on the fly, seeking new strategies, technologies, and partnerships to survive in a world where the rules can change overnight. Tariffs almost always mean higher prices for consumers. A 15% tariff on European cars adds thousands to the sticker price of a new Mercedes, BMW, or Audi. Even US-built German cars are affected, since many parts are still imported and now cost more. The result? Nearly every German model in America is more expensive. Higher prices ripple through the market, pushing some buyers toward used cars or less affected brands. This distorts competition and limits consumer choice. The broader impact: higher car prices fuel inflation and strain household budgets. For many, a car is essential, so these tariffs act as a hidden tax on American families. Intended to protect U.S. industry, the tariffs end up costing American consumers the most. U.S. carmakers aren't immune to the pain. Ford and GM rely on global supply chains, importing billions in parts and materials, many now subject to tariffs. Ford estimated a $1.5 billion hit to earnings, money that could have gone to new technology or jobs. The strategy to punish foreign rivals backfired, as foreign automakers also employ thousands of Americans in U.S. factories. When German companies cut production or investment, American jobs are at risk. Retaliatory tariffs from the EU and China have made it harder for U.S. automakers to sell abroad. The result: higher costs at home, lower sales overseas, a lose-lose scenario. Even Ford's CEO admits the trade war is hurting everyone, not just foreign competitors. The new mantra in auto boardrooms is, "Build where you sell." By localizing production, companies hope to shield themselves from future tariffs and trade shocks. German automakers are ramping up U.S. investment, with Audi and Porsche considering a joint factory. This marks a shift away from globalized, export-driven manufacturing toward regional production hubs. Building new factories and supply chains is expensive and slow, but it's seen as the only way to survive. The shift could mean more US jobs, but also job losses in export-heavy economies like Germany. The era of frictionless global trade in autos may be ending, replaced by a patchwork of regional industries. The industry is bracing for a new, more fragmented future. Tariffs are just one of many challenges facing the auto industry. The costly shift to electric vehicles is draining resources, while profits lost to tariffs slow the transition. Chinese automakers, with lower costs and government support, are emerging as fierce, new competitors. The battleground is shifting from engineering to software, batteries, and digital features. Tariffs distract from these existential threats, forcing painful restructuring and deep introspection. European car makers face high costs and strict regulations at home, making US tariffs even harder to bear. The industry is being squeezed from all sides: trade wars, tech disruption, and new rivals. For American workers, the outcome is mixed. Some new jobs, but more instability. For consumers, expect higher prices and fewer choices. For German automakers, this is a defining moment. Survive the immediate pain, adapt to new realities, or risk being left behind.